where there's hardly no day, nor hardly no night. There's things half in shadows and halfways in light. On the rooftops of London. Whew, what a sight.
Oh, you're a sweep now, are you?
Best view in the world, eh? And who gets to see it? The birds, the stars, and the chimney sweeps.
It's showtime. Welcome to our show. It's about all things musical. And today it is all about Mary Poppins. Alright, so before we start, let me tell you a little bit about our show. The magical story of the world's favourite nanny is triumphantly spectacularly brought to the stage with dazzling choreography, incredible effects and unforgettable songs. The stage production of Mary Poppins is brilliantly adapted from the wonderful stories by PL Travers and the original film. It is co-created by Cameron Mackintosh and is a book by Oscar-winning screenwriter and Downton Abbey creator Julian Fellowes, with a timeless score by Richard M. Sherman and Robert B. Sherman, including the classic songs Jolly Holiday, Step in Time, Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, and Feed the Birds, with new songs and additional music and lyrics, including Practically Perfect by the Olivier award-winning British team of George Stiles and Anthony Drewe. Our principal cast are Mary Poppins, Bert, George Banks, Winifred Banks, Jane Banks, Michael Banks, Miss Andrew, Birdwoman, Miss Brill, Robertson I, Mrs. Corrie, Parkkeeper, Admiral Boom, Bank Chairman, Miss Lark, Nellis, Valentine, Kate Nana, Northbrook, Bon Hossier, and the policeman. Okay, so let's start talking a little about the show. And what I think I really like is how it really differentiates from the actual source material. Because with a lot of stage musical adaptations, most of them, we do see them, literally adapt the source material to the letter, and you get a little additional music, get additional songs, to help, boost it up. Obviously, you've got at least a 2-hour show you've got to try and pull for. But what I love is how it's not a complete direct adaptation of the Disney film, but it also features elements from the film and the books, because we've all either seen we've all seen with Mary Poppins, we've all seen either the film, we've read the books. I've only ever seen the film, and of course Mary Poppins Return in 2018. I've not read any of the books, so I'm only familiar with the film. But what's great is that actually you've got the combination of the two source materials, you bring them together and you get an overall, you get to see, there are a couple little tweaks though. The dancing penguins, that we often in Jolly Holiday, and the tea party on the ceiling at Uncle Albert's, unfortunately, get removed. That's probably due to their ability, to make things float on the stage and everything. And also we have some other characters from the books, like for example Nellis, come to life in a musical, but obviously not seen the film. You also got Mrs. Corrie and her daughters who have a cameo in the film, and in the musical and the books, and there are many elements from the books that do not appear in the film or musicals, such as Nelly, Rubina, and the Ballroom Woman. So you get a combination of two source material, which I think is really lovely. It just makes it even more better. So it kind of feels like you are watching a completely new musical. It's adapted from a well-known source material. You still feel as if you're watching something literally completely new. And also, the musical actually places a lot more emphasis on the children. You know, Jane and Michael being naughty and their parents being really dysfunctional. To heighten the drama. I'm loving that. Because I don't think in the film, do we really see the kids become absolute terrors, which would warrant a nanny? I don't know if we do. So I love how here in the musical you get to see more emphasis of that. Like just you know it's the height of the drama, but it's still really like how Jane and Michael are constantly answering back, they're fighting. Which of course even creates a new sequence where obviously the children's toys will obviously come to life and sort of berate them in that song playing the game, which is a really great scene to have the toys like fight back. It kind of harks to what Woody does in Toy Story, but that's because Steve just to literally give those two children a taste of their own medicine. Also, a sequence originally titled Temper was inspired from a chapter in the books titled Bad Wednesday. And also George Banks has expanded from the film, which is really good to see, because in the musical ability he had like a difficult childhood, which he was ignored by his parents. So I'm glad to see his character development get a bit more there. Oh, and of course we also see his nanny in the musical, because obviously his nanny, Miss Andrews, is a character from the books and makes an appearance in the musical. It's got the complete polar opposite to Mary Poppins. Complete. I mean, you could not compare. The two couldn't be more different than you would think. Winifred is no longer the suffragette from the film. She's more of a former actress who's struggling to fulfill her husband's expectations of her. No, I think I referred to as a suffragette. But the character and the maid in the film was cut entirely, and so a new character called Miss Smith was created to introduce the bank chairman. Admiral Boo does not blow the cannon, making the house shake like he does in the film. So bits that are well known from the film don't quite make it, but what is quite nice is how they stay. Well, not stay. They get checked. They get sort of you adapt to the quite brilliant. You have to better time more. Now, also quite a lot of musical number sequences. They also got modified because another thing I really love is the music. I mean, the combination of the songs from the film combined with the new songs, I think is really great. We'll talk about those in a bit detail later on. So they're really great. So you had the classic songs by obviously from the Sherman brothers, like Jolly Holiday, Step in Time, Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. We've also got some new songs and additional music. Written by the Olivier award-winning British team of George Stiles and Anthony Drewe. I think some of those new music numbers are brilliant. But what's quite interesting about the songs that are originally from the film is they kind of get modified from the purpose in the film, which I really don't really quite like at all. I mean, because I remember watching it thinking, oh my, and particularly, I don't think you really notice it until you get to Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I go, oh, hang on, no, that's not how I remember it in the film. So Spoonful of Sugar, Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, Feed the Birds, Let's Go Fly a Kite, they all have adaptations. I'll talk more of those in detail when it comes to the musical numbers, so I can show you more about my thoughts a little, but I didn't quite like adapting them a bit. I mean, if it was different characters in them, fair dues, because obviously you have to every now and then shake it up. But no, I just didn't really kind of quite like that at all. I think I would have preferred if you had the numbers for the film in the musical as they were in the film, and then you add the musical numbers written for the musical, and you blend the two together, and it would work really well. Because some of the songs are quite pretty. Some of the new numbers written for the musical, they are quite good as a whole. And obviously, what's also great, you got some well-known characters there. So you got Mary Poppins, you got Bert, you've got the Banks family. You got some additional new characters, which is brilliant. And I think what's interesting, the characters from the film, your opinions of them really are changed. I'm going to talk much more in the character section later on, but I do feel that the personalities of them really do kind of differ. So you had a particular opinion on one of them from the film. Well, when you see the musical, it sort of really changes, and I think that's pretty brilliant. Which is going to help the character section later on. Because remember, character section for the musical adaptation, we always have to refer to their roles in the musical, not from the original material. So that's going to be really handy later on. But yeah, I think it's brilliant how you literally just sort of some of the characters, your opinion actually changes a lot, which gives you a new perspective on the whole. Also, I think the scenery looks amazing. The costumes are brilliant. But there's one thing I need to point out, and what I really, really do love is, now this probably is going to be a little bit of a spoiler if you're not already have seen the musical, but I'm going to mention it anyway. One of the things I really, really, really love, and it comes at the very, very end of the show, is at the very, very, very end, is where you have Mary Poppins literally fly out into the audience. That is just absolutely brilliant. I love it. It's absolutely brilliant. How did I manage to have her do it without you seeing like ropes or wires? That is just absolutely brilliant. I know that might be a little bit of a spoiler for those of you who've not already seen it, but honestly, it's absolute just brilliant. And you're sat there, you're waiting for that moment. Because we all know how in the musicals, Mary does fly in the film, so you're thinking, she's not doing the musical yet. Is she going to do it? She's not going to do it? Because that's the one sort of main iconic thing you remember from Mary Poppins, is that Mary can fly. And so literally, it happens right at the end where you literally do not expect it. It's absolutely brilliant. I really love that. That is my literally favourite thing from her. It's literally right at the end of the show. She literally flies high above the audience, and you're literally just like open mouth, like, it's like, how is that happening? Because I don't think you can really see the ropes properly or not, because obviously it probably would be done by ropes, but I don't think you really see them at all. But that is absolutely brilliant. That is literally one of my favourite things from the show. That might be a little spoiler warning for those of you who have not seen it, but I could not talk in this segment about the things I love without mentioning that. I think it's absolutely absolutely brilliant. So it literally is. It's definitely worth the wait. You know, it's at the very end of the show, it's absolutely brilliant. So yeah, so that's one of my literally favourite things. So the whole thing is a very interesting musical of Disney classics, because some of these kind of musicals, they just literally been like an adaptation and help to develop the characters a bit more, grow a bit more, add in musical numbers. With Mary Poppins, it's interesting because you've got, because like I said, it's taking bits that work from the film and putting in things from the books to get together, and it's like, I think it's really amazing because if you like me, you've only familiar with one and not the other. So if like me, you've only ever seen Mary Poppins the film, you've not read the books. It's interesting because the other things, okay, and it's literally something new to see. It's like, oh wow, but if you have read the books as well, you can watch the big. Oh yeah, I remember that character. I remember that one. Oh yeah, she was a terror. So there's a lot of differences in from the, and they make it work together. It actually kind of works brilliantly. Although I think we all would have loved the Jolly Holiday sequence to have been as it was in the film, wouldn't we? We would have. Yeah, but the musical itself is absolutely quite brilliant, and we're going to talk more about the music and those adaptations in the musical number section, because I can help explain whether we like them or not, and it might hinder my choices for favourite musical numbers later on. But we'll get to that when we get to it. And what I love about when it comes to the characters is, for those that are from the film, this musical really helps you to change your opinion on them. I won't say who, because I'll leave it to the character section. But yeah, so if like before you see the film, when you have an idea, oh, I'm not sure about the character, well, actually, you go and watch after you come out the music, your opinion just changes. It's absolutely brilliant. So yeah, so all in all, it's a lovely musical, and like I say, that bit at the end is the bit you want to wait for, when she literally very positively flies across the whole audience. That is literally just like the best bit. That's one of my favourite bits of it. And that's probably a spoiler, but But I could not do a what I like section without mentioning that bit, because I mean that is absolutely, literally brilliant. That is really brilliant. Where she applies for the audience again. That is absolutely the best bit of it. That really is. And on to the musical numbers now. Oh my god, there's loads of them. I don't remember there being that many in the musical. It's got about as many as Hamilton. Oh my lord. Right, okay. I think what we'll have to do is we'll have to do it like we did with Hamilton. I'll list them all from each act and just talk about a couple. Yeah, we'll do it that way. So, Act 1. A lot of these are probably Bert's narrations. That's probably why there's so many. You got Jim Jimmery, Cherry Tree Lane Part 1, The Perfect Nanny, Cherry Tree Lane Part 2, Practically Perfect, Chim Chimmery Chim Chim Tree, All Me Own Work, Jolly Holiday, Cherry Tree Lane Reprise, Being Mrs. Banks, Jolly Holiday Reprise, Chim Chimmery Chim Chim Tree, Winds Do Change, Spoonful of Sugar, Precision and Order, A Man Has Dreams, Feed the Birds, Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, Playing the Game, Playing the Game, and then you finish off that one with a Chim Chimmery Reprise. Oh my lord, a lot of them. There are a lot of them. Oh, also I mentioned earlier on in the what I like phase, I did not phase, so the what I like bit segment, I mentioned how some of these songs featured in the film had to be adapted. I wanted to talk about them and see how. So I'll bring that up now. Tell me with them. So give me 2 seconds. Got it. Right. Okay. Like I say, we'll just talk about a select few for each one, because otherwise we're going to be here all night. Oh my god, I don't remember being that many in the film when I watched it. Right. So yeah. I'll say the Chim Chimmery because there's a few. Because I believe there is a few. There are a few more in the second act, so we can talk about as a whole. Practically Perfect. I really love Practically Perfect. I think for me it's the one number that for me stands out the most. Basically it's Mary Poppins, describing herself to obviously the children, Jane and Michael. When we have what she's done those measurements of them, and it describes their personalities, and they're all quite shocked about it. And obviously you then get Mary Poppins does hers, well, sort of, and then goes into how, then it goes straight into the song and how she talks about how she's practically perfect in every single way. But like I love it, it's not done in like a Berkeley Posty thing. It's not done boastful. It's done, kind of proper, prim, and quite musical. But just me, it just sticks out the most. Which I really do quite do like it. Yeah, so. So that's perfect in every way. Practically perfect. That's just literally that's what kind of sticks out the most. I remember the most in my head. A little bit of them, but yeah, it's absolutely a beautiful number. I really love it. Yeah, of course that's one of the songs that's written for the musical, and it's really done in. Mary Poppins describing herself, her goal to help shape Jane and Michael for the better. As well, so yes, it's a brilliant number. I really do love it. Okay, let's move next up. We will discuss Jolly Holiday. Now, for Jolly Holiday, in the musical, it's done a little bit differently because we don't have the penguins. No, we've not got the penguins. Isn't that the one thing that makes Jolly Holiday iconic in the film because of the because of the penguins and everything, but unfortunately, they're not in there. They're not in the number. Instead, you've got one of the park statues that gets in, because it takes place in the park. This number in the middle, it takes place in the park, and instead you've got one of the statues. But yes, unfortunately, the dancing penguins not in. That's probably likely due to the fact that you can't make things float on stage. They got removed. And so instead you have Neelis, who's the statue, and he comes to life instead, and there's a place a bit in that number instead. Basically acts as the replacement of the penguins, but doesn't feel the same, does it? No. I think it kind of works. You know, they make do with what they've got, but I think a lot of people know it doesn't really work because the penguins aren't there, but oh well. What do you know? Right, be Mrs. Banks next. I love how this is Olivier to have her own song. It kind of feels like one of those laments, you know, when the character's being down and miserable and trodden. But I think it's quite brilliant because it shows the emotional side to Olivier and shows how she's struggling, you know, trying to play this role medium and trying to lure it to her husband at his life. That's quite a nice song there. A spoonful of sugar. This was one of my favourites from the film, actually. It's a bit like how with Practically Perfect. It's one of those songs, but she always sticks out, and I can just go. She's like. Now, this was modified from the film. Now, originally, of course, this was sung when Mary first arrived at the Banks' home. It got moved to a completely new sequence later in the show, where the children basically destroy the Banks' kitchens. Mary helps them fix it. It also is referenced to in part 2 of Brimstone and Treacle, and featured briefly as a reprise in the finale. Kind of actually works though. It kind of actually works because in the musical, it gives you a scenario for where this song can come in. You know, because they've just had the disaster of the kitchen. Robertson eyes down the job. I'm not sure if he's on either asleep, unconscious, or dead. Just give me a quick prod. No, he's alive. He's alive. Just unconscious. Yeah, but well, look, but yeah, so no, yes, actually, what Love How the Music actually gives a scenario where this song can actually come in and actually, and just shine. But yeah, it's one of my favourites from the film. Precision and Order. It's a very good number for an ensemble, and it basically helps you to introduce to the band, because we're going into that scene, and also in the scene George at work. Feed the Birds. We all know that from the icon from the film. Of course, that's a Bird Woman's Lone number. Now, originally this was sung by Mary before the Banks children visit their father's workplace in the film. But in the musical, it got moved to after they have their visit, and gets now sung as a duet between Mary and the Bird Woman, which I think is quite nice. I think it's quite nice, those two sort of singing together. Their harmonies work really. And then later on, we have a reprise during the scene where George walks to the bank. That still occurs, but it omits the film's memorable dramatic suggestion that the Bird Woman had died. So instead, a reformed George shares a joyous moment with her. Yes, because in the film she died. Which was an old woman living penniless and homeless, so it's going to happen eventually. But no, in the musical that does not happen. Instead, George gets alive, so yeah. I think that's all I can talk about from that one. Oh no, one more before we go on to Act 2. Plain Playing the game. This was a brilliant number. This is where the children's toys come to life. And basically just give Jake the little terrors. Remember, it's a podcast, can't go too rude. Basically gives little terrors what they rightly deserve. A taste of their own darn medicine. But it's quite a spooky number. It's quite harrowing and scary. But I think it actually works brilliantly in there. It really works quite brilliantly. Okay, so, yes. Favourites before we move on to Act 2. Just need to quickly choose my favourites from this first act. As we always do. So, Act 1. I think I'll just pick a couple from each one. What do? Okay, so Act 1, I'm going to choose Practically Perfect. Oh no, sorry, not all Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Oh god, I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't we? Sorry. We've got one more to do. I want to talk about that, of course, from Act 1. That, of course, is Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Although, I did not like the musical's burnt a bit. Now, originally, this gets sung during the park outing in the film, but in the musical, it got moved to Mrs. Corrie's sweet shop outing. It's also sung when George goes to his workplace during the Everything Can Happen sequence and during the curtain call. The song itself is also distinctly different, as the word is spelled both vocally and physically, and the lyrics are completely different. I wasn't too big of a fan of this, and I remember when I saw it the first thing, what's this? What's happening? I don't remember it. So I preferred the film's version rather than this. So that's probably why I was so keen to skip it. Move it on ahead. Whoopsie! Right, now we can pick Faith from Act 1. So, okay, so whoopsie! Correct. Oh dear, oh dear. Yeah. Alright, right, so Faith from Act 1. Practically Perfect. A spoonful of sugar. Do you know what? I'm also going to have playing the game. There you go. So it's free. We on to Act 2. So Act 2, we have another reprise of Cherry Tree Lane. Brimstone and Treacle Part 1. Let's Go Fly a Kite. Good for Nothing. Being Mrs. Banks reprise. Brimstone and Treacle Part 2. Practically Perfect reprise. Chim Chimmy Chim Chimmery reprise. Step in Time reprise. A Man Has Dreams reprise. Oh, there's a lot. This act 2 is basically just for reprises. Spoonful of Sugar reprise. Everything Can Happen Part 1. Feed the Birds reprise. Precision and Order reprise. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious reprise. Everything Can Happen Part 2. Spoonful of Sugar reprise. And A Shooting Star. Well, the Shooting Star is also his orchestra, which is played when Mary's flying, so. Yeah, oh my god. Right, so there's a lot of reprieve. Oh my god! It's like Beauty and the Beast all over again! Okay, right, let's do my best. Well, let's start with, obviously, Miss Drewe and her diabolical number, Brimstone and Treacle. So, part 1. Now, actually, can talk about both parts separately because they're both different numbers. Because part 1 is basically her arrival, and part 2 is like the showdown with Mary. So part 1. What's brilliant about part 1 of Brimstone and Treacle is where, oh my god, it's like the villain's moment they get to. It's just in film TV. It's just, oh my god, but as she's singing, it's just absolutely, oh dear, it's scary. It just makes you want to, oh, I want to go. You just want to sort of, you know, curl up in your seat and be like, oh, I want to go home now. It's like, oh, it's just, it's quite haunting, and obviously, I know she does. That is, oh my god. Literally, there's so much. She literally lives up to exactly how George had been describing her before her appearance. Yeah. Right, I'll come back to part 2 in a moment. I want to do Let's Go Fly a Kite before that. Now, of course, this is done very differently to what it was in the film. Because obviously in the film, it's the finale of the film. You know, that song, Let's Go Fly a Kite, is the finale. Of course, it's sung by the whole Banks family in the film. Here, it gets moved to near the beginning of Act 2. And it's sung by Bert and the Banks children. I actually prefer it this way because it gives the children an opportunity to spend some time with Bert, and develop that friendship with Bert. So I think that actually works a little bit better than the film. Yes, I actually quite prefer it done that way. Then after, we have Good for Nothing, and a reprise from being Mrs. Banks, there we come to part 2 of Brimstone and Treacle. It's basically your nanny fight. Yeah, again, podcast, can't say what I want to actually say, okay? Can't do it. But the older viewers know what I mean. It's just Showdown. Now, so that's why I can actually talk about it rather than just pass up as a reprise. It's not really a reprise, it's actually a part 2. And oh my, do these two literally just go for it head to head. But of course, you're not going to beat Mary Poppins and a spoonful of sugar. But well, look at how literally you got these two guys literally going at each other. And it's just absolutely brilliant to watch. It's how all fights should be dealt with. Not with blood and gore, with a bit of lights, camera, maestro, and vocals. Go! That's how it should be done, folks. That's how it should be done, Just go. Which they really do give Miss Andrew a taste of her own needed medicine. And Bashes. Then what's really funny about that is how Winifred and George then come back like, "Oh, Mary Poppins, what are you doing here?" It gets a little bit awkward. Whereas I'm thinking, she got rid of the evil hag. Shut up, say thank you. I know it, but I watched it, I think that's quite funny, because like, literally the Mr. Millbug like, "Oh, Mary Poppins, what are you doing here again?" I'm like, it's always awkward, so I just, but when I'm in the audience, she's thinking, just say thank you. She got rid of the old hag. Problem solved. We'll pretend it never happened. Even though Wilfred, you were the one who brought the evil hag in the first place, but we'll just pretend it never happened. Just say she got rid of the hag. Just say thank you. Alright, we'll move on. Right. I think the only other number I can talk about from Act 2, because, like I say, it's a act full of reprises. I think the only number from Act 2 that I can talk about in detail, I think is going to be Stepping Time, and that's probably it. So yeah, not skipping any on purpose. No, that probably will definitely be it. So Stepping Time. I actually prefer it in the musical they're doing the film. Yeah, I do. Again, like with Let's Go Fly a Kite, I prefer how it's done in the musical than in the film. In the film, it's very, very upbeat, very fast and everything. But what about the musical is how this is Bert's number to shine. He literally does shine this number. What I love is how actually it starts off it kind of builds up. So it starts off quite slow at first, and eventually it builds up bit by bit by bit. Eventually the pace picks up, the tone picks up, it's up. It's absolutely brilliant number. But Bert, as a whole in that number, he's absolutely brilliant in it, and that is to me why I love it more than the musical than the film. Absolutely, it's literally just Bert's number. Yeah, obviously you've got Mary Poppins, the children as well, and the sweeps doing it, but Bert kind of literally takes over as a whole. Okay, so I'll pick my favourites from that too. Then I'll do the Chim Chim Reese as a whole. So my favourites from Act 2. Now this will be tricky. Because there's a lot of different reasons. Oh dear Lord, help me. Right, okay. Okay. Favourites from Act 2. Let's Go Fly a Kite. Stepping Time. Have to that one. And you know what? this is weird. This is gonna shock you. Not even, and it's gonna even shock me because before we hit the record, I don't think I would have said it. But having talked about it, I think I'm also gonna take with me for this act Brimstone and Treacle Part 2. Because what I really love about it, it's literally just the two nannies literally just going at each other, so I'm going to have them as my favourites. So that's my first from the musical numbers. Now, we're going to quickly go through the Chim Chimmeries as a whole, because with Chim Chimmery, it's not sung as it's done in the film. It's more like a bass line for Bert to pop in every now and then, sort of help and push the narration on, which I think are absolutely beautiful. So he does quite a few of those. Obviously, he does the first. He starts off the whole show with Chim Chimmery. Then later on, he has All Me Own Work. Then he has Winds Do Change. Then you've got Twists and Turns. And then there's like a little reprise in about one. Then Act 2, it's just reprises. But still, he does have narrations, but yeah, so I think I love that as a whole because it makes Bert feel more wise and more wisdom than he was in the film, and it's just and hearing that melody, trying to read that melody, the that's such a beautiful melody. So it's a lot of guitar and styles, but yes, but them as a whole, they're really brilliant. But unfortunately, they weren't more one number, so we couldn't really talk about it in detail. But yeah, but as a whole, that's really, really lovely, and it's great narration to have throughout the musical. It just makes Bert an even better character. Alright, on to the characters now. As always, whenever we do musicals that are based on adaptations, we always have to reiterate that we're talking about my favourite characters from the show, not from the original source material. And trust me, if we're doing it from the original source material, then the person who I am going to choose my favourite would not be my favourite. That's give you a little hint on who it's going to be. Okay, so we'll get straight into it, and we'll go through some of the characters. We've got a long list of characters, haven't we? Tell you what, let's stick to the major characters. Now, I did mention in the at the very beginning, when I was talking about what I loved about the show, I did mention how what's brilliant about this musical is that for some of the characters, they are done completely different compared to what they were in the film, and it gives you a new, a new perception, of them. Some kind of think, I found them irritating. We'll actually think, actually, not so much. And that falls to a lot of the main characters themselves. So, the Banks family and Bert are prime examples that I can think of. So I'll do the children first, actually. I'll do Jane and Michael first. So, we've got Jane, the eldest of the two. She's very messy. She's always got such a bad temper. I mean, oh my god, literally throughout the whole. So her temper is just here, then it's just, oh my god. Is there ever a moment where she isn't moody? Oh my lord. She's so bad tempered throughout. And obviously got Michael, who is very mischievous. Plays pranks on the nannies, doesn't follow the rules, can be a bit narky from time to time, a little bit downright rude, because he's always attention seeking, that's maybe his behaviour. What I think is quite interesting is that in the musical, these two are complete, utter terrors. They weren't that bad in the film. They weren't really that mischievous. They weren't downright rude or cynical or naughty. But what I do love is how the musical has put more emphasis on the children, Jane and Michael, being extremely naughty. As it just shows how they really need to be need a nanny. It just shows because they're always just constantly fighting. They're always answering back for the adults, and they're not really having, respectful of her. So what I really love is how then when we have the playing the game number, I love it, because that is just the toys just going to rebel. It's like, right, you've been like this for, you've been treating this like this badly for so many years, now it's our turn, now see how you like it. I mean, it's a quite haunting and scary number, but I love how, for J. Michael, it's a taste of your own medicine. You're going to behave this narky, this sassy, this rude, this aggressive, then we're going to fire it back on you. So I do love to see more emphasis with them on them. Now with George, who I'll do next, I'll do the Banks family first, then we'll go back to the other characters. So I'll do George next. So he, of course, the father of the house. There we go, father of the house, grew up obviously in a very strict and stern household, but he tries to reflect that back onto his own family. He mentions he hardly ever saw his parents, who did not believe in PDAs. Well, I think most people still don't agree with that, even now here in 2020's Britain, they don't even, or 21st century life, we don't even agree with that now either. So, obviously he works at the bank, and he had a nanny, Miss Andrew, as a child. He was shivers, very mention of her. He's always off away at work, spends very little time with the family. And what is really great though, as we move on, he learns lessons about being more affectionate to his family. He's taught that there are more important things than work. And actually, what's quite interesting though, in the film, he was only a supporting character. But what I love about here in the musical is, a bit like with Belle's father and with Beauty and the Beast, they expand his role, so which is very, very good. And he also gets to have a couple of musical numbers as well. But what I really, really love is how with the musical is they have with George just hold on, let me find it. Give it a second. I mean, I just love how they managed to expand his role just a little bit further. Because even though we do see more emphasis placed on the family being very dysfunctional, I do love how they expanded his role, and going into his childhood. So like how he had a very difficult childhood. His family would hardly spend time with him. Obviously his own nanny. So they to expand his role to make him more relatable, a bit more understanding about why he behaves the way he is. It's just not just because not really. It's just there's a backstory. It's it. Well, the music actually gives George a backstory that the film really didn't. That's because obviously the film is a supporting role. And same for his wife. Wilfred. Now she is presented as a society woman, but here's a big difference between the film and the musical. In the film, she is of course a suffragette and was involved in many social causes for activism, which was quite bold and outrageous given the time period of the film's setting. And I thought that was great. Loved that in the film. She's her own independent, strong woman. However, in the musical, and this is what I don't really quite like, in the musical, she goes from being that strong, self-centered woman to just your typical, stereotypical woman for the times, where she gives up her work. She in the musical, it turns out that she was a former actress, gave up her work to become a married woman and have the children, and she's got it's almost like she's like an empty shell in a way. It's like she's just struggling to try to fulfill her husband's expectations of her, I don't really quite like that because she's been made like a bit more empty shell, whereas in the film she was a brilliant character, and that's just sort of been reduced to nothing there. Okay, so that's the Banks family as a whole. I'll come back to Bert later on towards the end when I talk to him and Mary Poppins for the end. So I'll come back to Bert because he was another character that my perception has changed on. But I'll come back to him in a moment. Okay, who should we do next? Let's see. A second. Let's see who we're gonna do. Who are we gonna do next? We might do the maid next. Let's double check her name. Just a maid. I've lost who it is now. Miss Smythe, the maid. What I really love about her is how she's really quite. So I just double check her name there. Was it Miss Brill? So double check. Sorry, I'm just at this. Miss Smith's character. We've got Miss Smith, we've also got another one. Got so many characters to mention about them all over the place. No, sorry, I got those two mixed up. It's Miss Brill, who's the maid. Miss Brill. Sorry, I had to double check that. Okay, back now. Okay, so it's Miss Brill, the maid. So overworked, so often stressed out. Well, can you blame her with the behaviour of those two children? Always has demands being put on her by Mr. and Mrs. Banks. And it sounds like when Mrs. Banks is trying to organise that social gathering, it's like, I want the sandwiches to be fresh, I want the ice to be made by scratch, I want the best meal to go on the cake, and when I still want the cake to be made like Liz, and the sandwiches need to be fresh, the need to be fresh, like, oh, for the love of God, woman, it's like a tea party, chill! I do have to film Mrs. Brill from time to time, honestly. Now, I never really mentioned her backstory or her family, but she did appear in the original books. Yeah, so no, but I do quite like her style. Literally, when she just snaps sometimes, like this is brilliant because I'm like that's all I'm watching. Those children, oh, for the love of God, they're just literally. They're not trying to go to insanity. I don't know, but yeah. And when with Robinson, some of those interactions are really brilliant because he literally just scares the hell out of her, but it's absolutely quite brilliant and quite funny. Speaking of Robinson, we'll come to him next. He's the houseboy. He appears in the original books, but not the film. His background family, like Miss Brill, don't get mentioned. He is described as being a bit lazy and sleepy. Actually, there is one word where he actually is lying down on the job, but I think it's because he gets knocked out unconscious. No, there is one scene where he literally is lying down on the job, but again, with those kids, can you blame them? He's kind, very friendly, but he is often sort of the cause of the chaos and is not very helpful. You know, like how when they're in the kitchen with Mrs. Brewer, for example, you know, she literally just loses her temper with him because, we have obviously the bird woman who makes her appearance in the film, just dressed in rags, looks disabled, sits on steps, obviously St Paul's Cathedral in London every day, selling bags of crumbs for tuppence. And of course that cathedral is near the bank where the Lord works. And of course Jane and Michael do at one point later on meet her. Michael obviously fetches a bag. And what I love, and also here's when Mary Poppins also tells the children about not to look down on her and respect her for as long as he be the bird. So that iconic song played. Right. Okay, let's move on to. Anyway, that's like that one number. Another character, so I can't really go much detail about that. But another person who's only there kind of put on number is called Mrs. Corrie, who is a magical woman who operates a magical pop-up shop where her customers are described as magical people, meaning of good conversation, difficult words. Her shop here in the park, and she's helped by obviously her two daughters. Mrs. Corrie is never mentioned in the film. She's actually from the books. In the musical, she leads the chorus along with Mary and Bert in singing and spelling out Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Now, she's described as being one of the oldest women in the world, although she doesn't look it. She also gives out candy, assorted treats, including gingerbread stars that have gingerbread stars. No, I don't know. Heard of gingerbread men and gingerbread houses, but not gingerbread stars. I'd look those up. They say that real stars from the sky on them that customers can then light and place in the sky. Of course, the musical. She also mentioned that George did used to come in here all the time, but it's not explained how that is possible. Well, about Mrs. Corrie, she's one of those magical people that you would love to have in fairy tales. So literally just carefree, very witty. So you would literally be anything to spell. She's quite brilliant, but she's only really there for that one number. That's it. So doesn't really get much of a chance to be out, does she? Right, we've kept it bay for long enough. Let's get to Miss Andrews, George's former nanny. Ooh. Complete. Now she appears in the original books, not in the film. Complete polar opposite to Mary Poppins, and I feel quite like that. I love how she's complete opposite to what it is. But oh my god, whenever she appears, it's like. Yeah, I can see why George is so afraid of it. Yeah, their numbers, they are quite scary and creepy, it's like a haunted horror movie. Yeah, because of course she's very mean, very strict. Obviously it comes when obviously Mary goes and Winifred contacts her, thinking, "Love is a blood darling, love is surprise." No, not surprised, not surprised. That classic stereotype of the heterosexual couples where the woman wants to try and please their husband. So, I do look surprised, darling! Not surprised! I love how when she first shows up, even George just runs off the stage as soon as he can, quick as he can. That's how terrifying she is. You know what I mean? Look at her, it's like, ah! And, I do not want to try her remedy. No. No. She is a complete monster. Never married, never had any children of her own. God thank that. Obviously, throughout Act 1, she's kind of mentioned, but doesn't appear until the second act, which features her song Brimstone and Treacle. We'll pass on that one, thank you. And has an owned, well, I say owned, it's more like captivity. Beloved pet bird, a lark, but you're a complete scary woman. Oh my god. But it's funny because in the first act, obviously when she mentioned it's like, oh come on, Dodgy, really crap is that bad? Then Act 2, when she appears like, okay, no, she is bad. I'll go on. You want to leave? They won't need to get anything from the stools. It's like one of those moments when you watch the film and telling a speech script, you just want to tea, coffee, lemonade, anything? No. Okay, fine, I'll stay. Let's eat then. Look, I'll ride it out. Right, okay. Let's finish it off with the two main characters. So, Bert. God, we've got to say maybe last. Now, Bert. In the film, I did not really quite like Bert. It was Dick Van Dyke's accent put me off. Oh, God. But also in the film, I find it very annoying, very needy, and just completely irritating, and I could only put it in small doses. Here in the musical, it's the complete opposite of that. For me, well, look, watch me talk about this is like a complete opposite to the character. He's more wise, he's more charming, he's more charismatic, he's more caring. All those personalities that I thought in the film, no, they're not there. He's more wise man. Because he acts as our narrator of the story. He's a very strong and dance man, so that's my kind of person. As I mentioned, charismatic, charming, jack of all trades. Might even have some magical abilities himself. And of course, we know when they first meet Mary, obviously Mary mentions that Bert's known Mary before the story even began. We don't need to know any details about how that. We'll just go with it. We'll just roll with it. And Bert spends time in the park and sits on one side of Cherry Tree Lane. He mentioned that he's seen Jane and Michael before, but it's not until Mary Poppins arrives that he interacts with them. What about Bert is he has got all these lot of moments where literally he just does come with a narration. Does it fall into Chim Chimmery song? So that's quite lovely. We have a pop up now and then. His number in Step in Time is quite brilliant too. I love that. But Bert for me is a completely different character to what he is in the musical. He's a completely different character to what he is in the film. And I just love that because it makes him all the more better than what he was in the film. And finally, Mary Poppins. Well, she's exactly as she was in the film. Our main lead. Her last day describes her behaviour because she tends to pop in and pop out of children's lives whenever she pleases. And I mentioned I'll stay until the winds change. Got the ability to fly, perform magic. Her trademark looks are dark hair, rosy cheeks, long coats, an umbrella, her hat with cherries. Then, what I really loved is how she's exactly as she is in the film. Everything that makes her so iconic in the film that we see it there in the musical. And so so she's based. It's almost like she's been taken from the film, put into the musical. Really, she's exactly as she is from what. And of course, at the end where she flies over, that is absolutely amazing. Okay, so to round it off, that's my favourite character. Now to pick one. Like I said, remember when we were discussing this, it's about when it comes to adaptations, but it's discussing what they were in the musical we've seen, not in the original source material. So, like I said, my choice is completely different than what it would be if we're doing this on the film. But because we're doing it like the musical, then I can go ahead and say it. So, my favourite character from the musical is Bert. Well, I'm afraid that's what we've got time for today. Thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, that's Showtime. Goodbye.
There's hardly no day, nor hardly no night. There's things half in shadows and halfways in light. On the rooftops of London. Whew, what a sight.
Oh, you're a sweep now, are you?
Best view in the world, eh? And who gets to see it? The birds, the stars, and the chimney sweeps. Nothing to beat it, eh?